And welcome everyone to our nonlinear session with our special guest as a space holder, Devin Gleeson. And I invited him because he has this ability to create out of nothing in a very special way. So he's one of the magicians in the field. And therefore I asked him to join this session today, and I'm glad I'm also here because originally it was planned I'm not here. So the training was canceled or postponed into the next spring. So I'm glad to be on the ride. So Devin, I'm gonna pass you traditionally this with a handshake,
Okay.
yeah, the
Okay.
space holding, and the space is yours for the next 2.5 hours.
Wow, that is a lot of time, but it's also
Yes.
not very much time at the same time. Thank you. I was, let's see, I was in the previous iteration. I think the previous iteration of this training, and I'm sure this iteration is much different. And I can't remember if we did too much on nonlinearity in the actual space of the training, but I know that working on nonlinearity and finding out how to incorporate it into coaching was a big part of, or was a significant part of what I experienced in a 3-cell with actually Nicole Bradford and our other person who was not there at the time, or who's not here right now, but who was in the previous coaching. So I'm glad to be bringing maybe some of what kind of started in that 3-cell into this space today and seeing where we go. The first thing I want to say, well, no, I guess this is like the 8th thing that I'm saying, is that I have a plan for today, which is kind of the opposite of the spirit of nonlinearity. And it's a significant thing. I want to bring this into the space because it's a significant thing that I have a plan, which is when I first started exploring nonlinearity in these spaces and coaching in particular, that's what I was discovering, is that before I even knew it, without even trying, some part of me as a possibility coach is collecting a plan about what to do in this situation, about what to do when someone, say we have this thing called a block process. So what to do when I notice that someone has an energetic block in them, what to do when I see that someone has mixed emotions. Like, we have a variety of these processes that are sort of already pre-baked, meaning someone has already created a recipe for how they go. And there's so much value in that someone can discover something that's really significant and then pass it on just by writing it down. It goes like this. So it's obviously there's huge value to making these discoveries. And one of the dangers of having recipes like this is that there's something, and I think particularly for maybe for people who grew up in the Western culture, that is inside the box is already about school, and school is already about doing it right, about the question of how do I do it right, or how do I know, how do I basically sit myself in a position of knowing what to do, which is fundamentally invulnerable. So it's what I mean by that is, if you already know, then somehow you are not vulnerable to not knowing. You do not get to explore the much vaster terrain of not knowing and not knowing which direction to go in. And as it turns out, this terrain of not knowing is where nonlinearity starts, is where nonlinearity already emerges from. So part of the work of discovering, in my opinion, part of the work of actually practicing nonlinearity comes from discovering what you already think you know and how you are already operating automatically. So when I open a coaching session, what am I already scanning for in the client without being aware that I am scanning for that in the client? What am I, something like, there's another context, something like it's always already. So what is my kind of filter that I always already come into a space with? What am I always already listening for? What am I always already looking for in the client? And what these things are, so for instance, what I discovered for myself, one of my orientations toward clients and toward space holding is I want to do good. I want to do a good job. Does anyone else have an orientation like that? I mean, if you just scan yourself and how you show up to a coaching call, for me, it could even be something like, I want to cause transformation in this person. I want to be a space that can cause transformation in this person. So what I started to notice, and what I invite you to notice also in this session today as we explore, is what you're kind of, what you start with when you come into a space. For me, starting from a position of, I want to come into this space and create transformation for a client, cause transformation for a client, already narrows my focus so down, so much so that I can't necessarily see or grasp what would be outside of this narrow focus. And why I bring this up is transformation is a bright principle. And it's a wild, completely if you are really in a transformational space, it is non-linear in ways that often are inexplicable. And watching it happen, like for me, when I'm in a space with, I was just in a space with a trainer, Lee Kumar. And for me, watching this guy work and the things he says and the ways he changes his voice, and every once in a while he'll look at someone and put his hands like this and just start yelling at them from across the room. Like none of it makes sense because it's not planned. It's somehow actually emerging from the bright principle of transformation and what is truly needed in that moment. Okay, my box also has an idea about transformation. And some of this box transformation comes from collecting moments. Like I watched Lee Kumar working and I collect this moment of him doing this thing. And I think, okay, and so it's like, this is part of how my box operates, and possibly yours too, is that it's looking for tools and formulas that can work consistently. The idea being that if I have those, and perhaps you too, that I don't actually have to enter the space of not knowing. So the first half of this is something like starting to get what your box has already collected, starting to get what impediments are already in your box to accessing nonlinearity. And I want to start with just going straight into an exercise about that. But before I do that, is there anything from anybody so far?
You
are doing a good job.
You son of a bitch. Anything else from anybody?
I have something. I have a question, Devin, that my mind make like woo when you said you have a plan and non-linearity, because my box have the idea that non-linearity don't have a plan. And
yeah,
this, as a space holder, I'm sometimes struggling to think about preparation, planning, and non-linearity and distinction between these things, because I already listen so much in different spaces. When you have something plain, it's death, and it's you don't have, and at the same time when don't have structure, it look like that don't have somewhere to go.
mm-hmm.
I would like listen more from you when you say the plan and this non-linearity, and yeah, I got curious with that, and I don't know if we discover in an exercise also. Yeah.
I have the same question, and I'm sitting with it, because what I notice, yeah, so it's like, what I notice is I've been holding Rage Club for a while now, and with Rage Club, somehow I can't go into it without I mean, I could maybe go into it without a plan, but there's still something where it's like I will not feel like I'm really in the space until I actually sit down and feel into the space and write some things down. And I don't know if that's, I don't know yet. Is that just something that feeds my box, so my box can quiet down and say we have a plan? Because almost all, I'd say 90% of the time in Rage Club, things don't go according to any plan I've created before. Because what's happening with the actual participants is so much more interesting and alive. And the exercises just get invented out of someone saying something, or out of someone's gremlin saying something. And it's like, oh, there's the actual live thread that would serve the space. And it's so obvious. For me, I've not yet done the experiment of saying, all right, I'm not planning at all for Rage Club today. And even this space, it's like I've written some things down. Some of them are scattered ideas. It looks a lot different than how I used to plan, because it doesn't have 1, 2, 3. It's just stuff. I just wrote down stuff, but in a way, it's still somehow gripping or grabbing onto something. And already, most of the stuff that I've said here, I had no thought of saying before coming into this space. So I guess this would be something interesting to, and maybe other people you have experience with this, but interesting to pull on or tug on or experiment with, is what a plan actually does, and what it does for which part of you, and how to deviate from the plan. I mean, that's the main thing I'm interested in here, is how can you deviate from the plan? And I just, one other thing I want to say is, I pointed to this earlier,
Devin,
but
what does it mean, deviate? I don't know this word.
yeah, go in a different direction.
Okay.
So go off the script, basically.
Thank you.
I mean, one thing with you guys have held a lot of processes, and you've held them for each other, and you've also watched a lot of processes, I think, and gotten some idea. I just want to use this block process because I noticed it's a way, there's a way that it often goes when someone has an energetic block. So just using that process. So I would already consider that a plan. It's already kind of unconsciously, there's some plan baked into your space holding, even if you don't come in with a plan. It's something like, what do I do? What do you call them? If X happens, then I do Y. So part of the question here would be playing with, okay, you already know how to do a block process. You already know how to unmix emotions. What don't you, what is there to discover when someone comes to you with mixed emotions, for them and for you? It's something like, how could you go liquid as a space holder? How could you be truly liquid as a space holder, doing something that looks like you've done before? So, yes, Jesse.
So there's like, what comes up for me with that is that when you say when somebody has mixed emotions, and for me, in some ways, when I've decided that somebody has mixed emotions, I'm already going kind of solidifying the possibilities. I'm narrowing the possibilities when I've decided that somebody has mixed emotions, or that their mixed emotions are the barrier or the thing in the way, you know? And so again, that's just what comes up for me, is like, how do I even just step away from that and say, okay, well, that's a possibility, but then really let go of it as a kind of solid landmark for where they are, you know? Yeah.
And how do you? I mean, there's a real question. How do you actually step away from that? Like, what's it look like?
Yeah, I have this image, and then I think I might have even shared this in the group or not, but an image of making a soup as I go. And when you have ingredients and you put it in the soup, they disappear. And the soup is the offering to the person. And so like, I might think, oh, it mixed emotions, but it's kind of, I have this image of taking that and being like, okay, I'm gonna just put that in the soup. Almost like I'm gonna forget about it. It's gonna be added to the flavors of this space as a possibility, or as a dynamic. But but it's going to change. It's not a solid, stable thing. It's going to get cooked. And so it's going to change. And so it doesn't have to, I don't have to be tied to that or bound by it. It's just a possibility that's in the pot here in front of me. And I can, when I throw it in the soup, I forget about it.
Okay. And then I'm making a leap here. The assumption I make is you get rid of it and then suddenly your attention is free again. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because being attached to the idea that the person has mixed emotions actually takes me out of the moment, really, in a small way.
So I think there's something to that, like something like first getting part of nonlinearity is having enough free attention to go nonlinear, and that would come partly from noticing where your attention is not free. Meaning my attention is already it's already imprisoned inside of this person has a mixed emotion happen, something like that. So this is kind of exactly where. Did you have something else about that, Jesse?
No, that's okay.
This is where I want to try going first. So what this would be starting to get starting to notice, using other people's help, starting to notice both what you are noticing. It's actually a couple of layers. What you are noticing, so the things that you are noticing and whatever conclusions you make about that noticing. What you are noticing with, so this would be your filter, your apparatus. So earlier I said you're always already listening or noticing. It would be something like, I'm noticing someone's eye, and what I always already notice are this person's eyes. I already notice their color. So mostly that's what I pay attention to when I notice someone's eyes. So that would be the apparatus that I'm noticing with. And then also what I'm not noticing. So what I'm noticing, what I'm noticing with, and what I am not noticing. And so the way this would work is we'll break out into, how many people do we have here? I'd like to do groups of
10.
3.
Yeah,
okay,
with you.
Okay, that works. So it'll be groups of 3. One person, you will be the kind of client, let's say. We'll call it a client. You'll be the speaker. And you'll just be answering the question for about 5 minutes. What's going on with you? What is really going on with you? The other 2 people who are in the group will just be the listening. It's what is going on with you, and you just flow. You just say whatever. It can be real, it can be a lie, it doesn't really matter. There will be one person who's going to be the noticer. So after 5 minutes, the second person, and I'll be sending these out, you'll get 5 minutes just to talk about the things that you noticed while this person was speaking. And you might talk about a little about what you noticed with, did you notice your own noticing, but mostly what you paid attention to. And then there will be a third round where the third person, you say at a meta level, what you noticed the noticer noticing. So it will be what you know, where you notice the person noticing, where their attention went. You also notice what they were noticing with. And then, so these would be the things that would be maybe somewhat automatic for them. And then you open up possibility by saying what they were not noticing. So the things that you noticed they were not noticing. So maybe they noticed the person having these emotions or feelings, but not really be able to go into them. But they did not notice that the person was, say, calling from, that the person kept their eyes open the entire time. Or they did not notice that the person hardly moved or hardly breathed, whatever it is. But to start to just give them, you didn't notice this, you didn't notice that. And so this would be starting almost a list for the noticer of, these would be other domains that I could possibly look into. Any questions about any of this?
Debbie, I have this
Yes.
question about noticing with. Would you give an example? What do you mean
Yeah.
about?
So I can notice you with my eyes right now. Like I place a lot of attention in my seeing. So that would be what I'm noticing with. I can also notice with my ears. It's like a totally different sense of what I can pick up from you. But then there are also filters. It's something like I could be noticing with the part of me that scans for underworld. Or I could be noticing the part of me that scans for how I'm doing it wrong. So I look at you and you just asked me a question and I did it wrong because I didn't say the thing that could have already answered your question. So that would be another field of noticing for me. Or I call it the apparatus, like what I'm using to notice with. Be like the filter. Another instance of this would be something like I'm noticing, especially with a client, like I'm noticing for what's wrong with them, like where their problem is, which would be really valuable. I mean, if you are holding space and you're always noticing for the problem, it would be challenging perhaps to help a client really discover their upper world, their bright principles, their aliveness, things like that. Did
Could you
that
say,
answer your question?
yeah, Marina?
No, I understood. Thank you, David.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a question about who's asking the question then. So you have a client, somebody's noticing who's noticing. Is it the third person asking the question, doing double thing, or?
Let's say it's just the noticer. The noticer just asks the client, what is really going on for you? What's really happening for you?
And that's just one question and the client goes on, or is
Yeah.
it like a dialogue?
No, not a dialogue. It's just one question, the client goes on.
And how long does the talker talked?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
So they get
the
5
noticer
minutes.
is writing everything what noticed and then ask this one question. So what is really going on? Because I noticed X, Y, Z. And then, or how, I didn't know.
No. It just goes, what is, so there's the first question. The question is just, what is going on? The person speaks into that. What is really going on with you? They speak into it for five minutes.
Wow.
The person who's noticing says what they noticed about the person speaking.
After the
Afterwards.
5 minutes.
And yes, afterwards, yeah.
After
And they'll have about
5
5
minutes.
minutes to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third person, the person noticed, the meta noticer, will be saying what they noticed about the person's noticing.
Okay, cool. And then shift.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Just like
I got it.
I just feel fear about writing, because if I'm writing, maybe I won't.
Yeah. Don't write. So don't worry about writing. It actually does not matter. You could speak for if someone spoke for 5 minutes to you and you wrote nothing down, you could speak probably for an hour about all the things that you noticed if you just kept going into all the different parts of you. So you'll get 5 minutes to just say, okay, I noticed their voice and it was like this and it was a little rough. I noticed all that stuff. Yeah. Okay.
And you will hop around. I could also hop around if you, so then it's 3-3-3, just
Yeah,
as a
3-3-3.
possibility.
We have 10. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
1, 2. Wait, you're going to be in a breakout room.
I can hop around.
Okay. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Okay, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm opening the rooms.
Okay.
Okay. I can send a message here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I would like that you go to room 3, and I would start with room 1.
Okay,
Does it work?
that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
First
cool.
news.
So I stay there. I think Jesse is, that's cool.
What is going on with me? Now it's going on with me that I'm thinking, what is going on with me right now? Or in these days? Or right now I feel a little uncertain about the situation, about
Devin, would you, when you jump around, would you record? Because I have the main recording and I'm jumping around, but also your part.
Okay, I can
Cool.
record as well.
Super.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Yep.
I'm jumping back. Ciao.
slide from the day. I had a client and had my son coming here in the middle of the night, so from Norway. So there is a new feeling here because my son is here in the house. I have a feeling of joy seeing him. And I also have a joy of making, as I felt, a very, very good session with a newbie today. And yeah, I have a little, I notice I have a little regret now that I didn't have time to, or I had some time to relax before because I would like to be more fresh. But I spent the time with my son. My son, he's 21 years old. And I was just in the moment and enjoying the time with him. And I just, yeah, it could be nice if I had rested a little bit because I feel tired, not enough sleep. And what is going on with me? I have some thoughts and about the session, an EOP I had the other day with catering. And it was something that I felt that should make a very big difference in me. And I try to notice in my everyday life what the difference is, because I let go of a very big being that was hooked into my bubble, my field. And I notice now that I try to find out what's the difference. I noticed also that to speak about the unlinear process, I can recognize it very much. I recognize that when he was talking about this not having this having a plan and not going by the plan, that I felt very good doing the session with the newbies today because I had a little more clarity than the first time, clarity about the distinctions, and it was easier for me to deliver the distinctions. And this unlinear thing, I think it's a very big part of me actually to be very unlinear, so unlinear that I don't have so much structure. So I can very much recognize this being sensing into the other person where they are, and then seeing if what the person says about what's going on fits with what I thought was for instance, this is a blog or something. I just had it in the back of my mind that, okay, maybe it can fit with that, but not that it has to fit. So I feel joy of having this, have learned those tools just to have it in my bag that I can use them, and they give some clarity, but it's not that it has to fit for those boxes. And I found out that I actually was quite linear today, so unlinear that I forgot that it's now that I realized that I forgot the process, the right way of doing the process. But I let my client find out how she wanted the process to be. And it was about giving the feelings from when she was in the womb of her mother, give the feelings to her mother back again. And
So we are shifting
yeah,
to the noticer. Who's the noticer? Okay, go ahead.
I notice you closing your eyes sometimes when didn't have the words to speak. You're looking to the up and closing your eyes, trying to find the words, the right words. I notice in the beginning you feeling fear in your body of not knowing what you'd speak. And this fear, I noticed after some time that this fear started to go to your hands. You started to move more your hands and speak more. And I noticed you were starting to use the fear to find the next word.
to find what?
The next word.
Mm-hmm.
I notice also sometimes when you're speaking, you moving your lips. And it looked like there was coming some feeling and you were blocking in some way. And I noticed that sometimes you did that with your shoulders. So I had the assumption that you were crossing your hands also. Mm.
I don't know what I did. I don't think I don't maybe.
Sometimes I notice you. I notice in your voice a softness, and I notice a softness in your voice, and when you share about your son, I sense also in my in my emotional body a sadness about it. Being with your son like this, the sadness. I notice a little bit of sadness in your voice, in the tone of your voice. I notice that I'm noticing with a lot with my eyes. Noticing a lot with my eyes what I see in you, like you were doing. And I also notice you moving your hair and fitting you in your seat, and moving a lot while you were speaking and sharing what is going on inside of you. I notice expectation about this space. What is gonna happen in this space today? And through this expectation, this like I wait that this will happen or not happen. I notice also your box trying to do right, could see your box speaking sometime trying to fit the exercise. I need to speak, and I noticed you were repeating the question. I say the question and you repeat the question. These stories behind the noticing. I had the story behind of my noticing that you are not fully present here, and you need to, I had the story that you had to prove something, and that you have to prove that you're good here. So you over explaining yourself. And behind my noticing, I get that there is this story also that there is a right way of speaking. That if you're moving a lot or if you're looking upstairs, this means that you are going through your head or you are doing something differently than being present and centered.
The part of this pressure, and I perceive also, I would say, with my energetic body, and this mimic that is not completely aligned with what you have said. I perceive I'm not sure, perhaps some gremlin, or also box detector.
I don't know.
Okay.
So you're shifting.
Yeah, I notice that you, Catherine, ask the question, what is going on with you? The moments like very precise. And I could sense that the moments that, Jessie, what is going on with you? What is really going on with you? Like you asked 3 times, and for me was like very precise. And when you start to say what you notice, I notice that you are noticing with more with your eyes, and you are saying you're not distinguishing what was the part of you that was noticing. It seemed like that you're using only this part of your body. And then when you start to speak, actually, I could sense that there was not only your eyes that was noticing things, was also part of your underworld, part of the stories that you made about Jessie. So I noticed that when you use I, some parts I see that is not, it's one part of you. And yeah, when you said the story of cool guy or something, that, or the t-shirt that, so he's out of the system, like this is a story that, so it was for me like noticing something that with this filter of the story that you make about people that are from out of system, for example. And yeah, I noticed that you are not using all the information that comes from all your bodies, and also from your child also, because I sense that sometimes Jesse spoke from his child, and so you can say also like my child see that my child, for example, and really brings all the things that comes with you, your 5 bodies, your underworld, your gremlin, and also your bright principles. Like with my bright principles, I see that, yeah, I see that when he said about death, for example, that his aunt is dying, like part of him actually is comfortable about that. So yeah.
Stay with Katrin. Stay with Katrin. How did you notice about her, Marina?
Mm. Yeah, it's like more letting you. I noticed that sometimes you block the energy of your bright principles to really speak the things that you are seeing and you are noticing.
And did you notice how, Marina?
I noticed that she has like these precise moments that she was doing the question, and when she started to
talk to Katrin directly. It's a bit weird talking about Katrin in the
Yes.
third person. So yeah.
Katrin, I noticed that you notice more than you are saying that you notice. Like you notice more. You have a lot of things to say that you notice. And maybe because you are still attached to the things that you see with your eyes, you didn't notice all the things, because I noticed that you're noticing a lot.
What else did you notice that she could not notice because of something? What did you notice about that?
I noticed that. Can I say about stories? Yeah, my story about you, that you don't see your value, because it's notice that you are not saying your value to Jesse, and saying what you really seeing about him, about what you do notice. Yeah, I notice when you start to say about your body, for example, your energetic body, I notice that you start to go down with your observation. Like you start to integrate the observation about what you were noticing. And you start to, okay, yeah, that's my emotional body that is feeling that. So I feel something. So I notice that I'm feeling something when I say about my emotional body.
When you say I, it's confusing, Marina. You talked about Katrin, what she might tell herself, or?
Yeah, like you, when you said that you were noticing with your emotional body, I saw you with more power in the things that you were bringing. I saw you like more. Yeah, my emotional body is speaking, so I am speaking from my emotional body. So you are speaking from your emotional body when you say that. And I noticed that. I saw you, like, I noticed that you are more, that you are more like using your eyes like this. And I noticed that this way of looking is trying to understand. And so your energy is more like here. I noticed that you have this power of connection, because you ask in precise moments this question, and so you were like really following with Jessie. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Then
Thank
shift
you.
to the next constellation. Who's next? Who's the next speaker?
I'll be the client.
Okay, I'll be the noticer.
Cool.
Okay. Marina, what's really going on for you?
And now I'm feeling fear. Because I'm always with this thought that the things that I say is not valuable. So I say something and it seems like that I said. Every time that I express something, I said. Okay, now I said. It's like it seems that it's almost an effort to express myself. All the time, it's like every time that I express, now with this exercise, like I'm using my anger, like, and I see that sometimes I'm using like, no, to try to say, and I have a lot of fear right now too. Like my body wants to shake, and I'm not allowing my body to shake because I'm not used to do that.
What's really going on for you, Marina?
I feel sad. Sad because I'm discovered so many things, and I feel sad that I have this story that every time that I express myself, I will cut the connection to others. If I give feedbacks to Catherine, she won't talk to me anymore. That's the story I create all the time. And my gremlins like is beating me up, like, why you're saying these things? You're not a good friend. And I'm having this all the time. My bee wants to connect. And I am always, I don't know how to say, I don't know how to give feedbacks. I don't know if it's good or bad, or it's so much new for me to express myself. I'm 38 years old, and this is so much new for me to do things that I love, to work with things that I know that I love, and that I'm not used to do that.
What's really going on for you, Marina?
Sometimes when I'm here with you, I just want to close the door and I don't want to leave. Like, I don't, like, life is so, like, I have this image of closing the doors, and I feel so sad because this is the strategy that I'm always having. Like, for the last years, I'm isolating myself, and I want to connect to people, and now I'm afraid of connection because I don't know how to do. I'm afraid to lose friends. And I really don't know what to do. I don't know my next steps. I feel fear of not knowing. I don't know this, how is life with this new way of living. Everything was so structuring my life, like I'll have kids, I will marry, I will have a job, and everything is like a tower that is like collapsing, and I don't know what to do. If I will have a home, like my fear is like I'll have a home, I'll have family, I'll have friends. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Marina. So I was noticing with this part of me that is like, yeah, I was noticing through this filter of looking at what's in the way for you to be brilliant and radiate. That was like, I noticed that I was noticing through that filter of what's in the way of you being brilliant right now. And what I noticed was that you almost immediately went into a child ego state. And it was almost like you started saying from the very beginning, I'm not okay. And because I was noticing through this filter of where is the thing in the way, I noticed that that's in the way of you being brilliant. It's a strategy to become a child. And it's like an I'm not okay box. And so you immediately went into I'm not okay. And as it went on, I noticed you going deeper into that. And I noticed you used the word always a lot. I always do this. And I also noticed that most of the things you said were affirming of how you are, basically saying, this is how I am. This is what happens to me. This is what always happens to me. And I noticed that that's in the way of the words you choose are in the way of you radiating and being brilliant. You being your brilliance. Because you're choosing words that are basically not just describing your stuckness, but affirming your stuckness. Basically, you're using words that make you even more stuck. The words themselves confirm your stuckness. They solidify your stuckness. I always do this. And yeah, I noticed that was in the way of having the possibility or of radiating your being in the moment. And I noticed a kind of confusion, or like a confused box, and I found myself like with this question of what is the purpose of that? What's the purpose of being so confused? And yeah, I noticed how your body did this thing over the time that you started kind of more neutral, and then you brought your shoulders in, and it was like you became smaller, physically, like visually, you became smaller. So I was noticing a lot with my eyes, but I was noticing more, I think, with my ears and with this kind of principle of maybe empowerment. I think I was noticing through the principle of empowerment that I felt this sadness and wanting to hold up a mirror to show you what is in the way. That was my noticing principle. And I was also noticing my own noticing in the moment, and noticing how I was getting a little bit hooked by the child ego state. It's noticing that happening, hooked into a kind of parental ego state. Yeah. I also noticed how it was almost as if you were expecting to be attacked. Like you had this posture that was like waiting, like somehow expecting to be hurt or attacked. And I have a story that you were diminishing yourself to make you less attackable. That to be noticed is to be hurt. Actually, to be really, really noticed is to be hurt, or to be like dangerously vulnerable, that you might get hurt. And okay.
I am impressed because you, Jesse, noticed everything I noticed too, and even more. You noticed, like in the last part, you said you noticed about the body shape, and you noticed this also through different layers or aspects, like also the words that Marina was talking a lot about, or said the word always, and that with this she's confirming this stuckness. So it is on different level, you notice the same. And you noticed also that she was in a child ego state. And you even noticed what you are noticing and how you get hooked, and how you get, you shift into a parent ego state. I noticed that you have been very focused. And
of Aeon being in his intellectual, speaking intellectually about emotional topics. And I noticed Charlotte not noticing that there was a look on his face of pain. And I mean, that I noticed. I noticed that Charlotte noticed kind of where she was in relation to
Leslie,
Aeon.
would you speak to Charlotte talk to her? It's like, it's a bit weird talking in a third person. It's like,
Yeah.
I noticed that you noticed.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that you were aware that you kind of spaced out into the crystals and his medallion, and And then I noticed that you came back to what he was saying. I noticed that you noticed in yourself. Oh yeah, no. Noticed about that you noticed the disconnection, and that it seems like you noticed it in yourself, and I don't know if you noticed it in him. The lack of connection from him. I noticed that you were pointing out that the positive thing, and the amazing thing that he was talking about, and the difficult thing were presented in the same voice and the same, like, it didn't have that you did say that the feeling wasn't there. I noticed this is similar, but that you didn't say anything about the expression on his face, like any kind of pointing out what his face was saying. I noticed I don't have another thing.
Cool, thank you. Was it Devin doing this 4 minutes, or is it a gadget what you have here? No.
It's
Oh, it's me.
Zoom.
Gadget. You can
Oh.
add it to your. It's like
Okay.
a.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. Okay, so you have the gadget. Okay, okay. Good. So shifting, even there's no announcement. I think.
Yeah, so that would leave Leslie the client this time and me the noticer.
Okay, cool.
So will you, Charlotte, can you do the gadgets one more time?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Post it in the group, please.
I will.
Okay. A little
You can
next.
do it like really quickly. Yeah. On your.
Yeah.
I'll explain it. Okay. Okay, ready? Here we go.
All right, Leslie, so what is going on with you?
What is going on with me is that I just came back from a lab, and I have some degree of inspiration and new clarity and a sense of transformation. And at the same time, I notice being triggered by people I live with. So what's going on with me is that I see how much I want to make stories about what transformation is going to mean for me, and what what I will get out of the experience. And it's also going on that I have been centering and grounding and bubbling more just in the last couple of days since I've been back. I noticed if something happens, I'm more likely to get myself back in first position. What's also going on is I feel in a victim place about last time I came home from a lab, nobody asked me anything about it. And this time I came home and I thought, well, I'll say some things about it, just some highlights. Nobody responded. This was in my meeting where we often share after the weekend. And I felt hurt. I felt, I went right into it and I still feel hurt. And angry. And my whole cycle of what the hell am I doing here? And at the same time, I made a plan. I made a commitment to hold space in my community for trigger for becoming unhookable. And I think it's awesome. And I think it's great. And every time, and at the same time, I think of who do I hope will come? Who will I ask? And like, no, not them, not them, not them. So I think I'm more sad and afraid, and I think I'm more sad than anything right now. What's really going on is I had a great talk with my husband and we had a wonderful morning, and that was good. And what's really going on is I haven't done most of the experiments in either this possibility space holder or the Rage Club space holder and possibility coach, and I feel angry about that. I feel sad. I feel stupid because I already thought with the possibility coaching that I had too much to do, and now I have more than twice more to do, and it just seems stupid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlotte, would you restart the gadget so I also have a bit of a time sense? Thank you very much. Gadget holder over there. Okay, so Leslie, I'm noticing your surroundings. Is that you have a backlight situation which is calling my attention, and this bluish tones, like this is like the physical layout of that is one layer. I'm noticing that I'm using much my eyes, my ears, and also my energetic body to sort of feel what's going on. I noticed that your eyes are moving very much all over the place. It's like you all giving me almost a sense like you're everybody everywhere else except really in the center, just giving me this curious feeling. And at the same time, I sort of feel your, when you share about some of the things you struggle with, I get a feeling about it, which is sort of and I notice this sense of a curious mixture of presence and absence, with your eyes going away, but your emotions somehow being present. I noticed that there is you have sadness, and I notice a lot of stories surrounding this sadness also in what you're sharing. I notice sensation in my energetic body as you speak, relating the emotional content of your sharing. I notice also a bit the victim sense that you also named, and now also energetically notice this sense in my energetic body, sort of got this feeling. And I also notice right now that you are, now that you are looking at the screen and the camera, you seem much more present than when you were sharing, where you're sort of wandering a lot around, which also made me wonder what was going on when you were speaking. I noticed that you talked about your relation to your community. I'm a little uncertain exactly what it is, but that you were sharing from your lab. You came home from your lab, and there was this great exuberance I noticed from this lab, as this like expanded energy, and then this like a bit of it, like it landed in an wanky way somehow in your home space, which also, where I noticed in myself this sort of tension, sort of like two different energies colliding sort of thing, this expanding exuberant energy, and then this not being received energy, almost painful in my body. I was noticing as you spoke this contradiction in two different realities. And I noticed you shared about your conversation with your husband, and it made me sort of give me a warm feeling, and made me, and I noticed a happiness inside me that you had this, and it touched me, and made me happy for you to that was, seems like something that really gave you a lot of presence and some positive experiences or value for you. And so I felt that, noticed that. Okay, thank you.
So what did you notice, Charlotte?
Okay, I noticed, Aeon, that you noticed kind of the flow of Leslie's share, and the dynamic, like you noticed that her eyes were moving around, and and how that somehow was connected to her also, the share was kind of moving around, like there were a lot of different parts to it. And like different, well, okay, what you didn't notice was that different ego states you didn't say, what you didn't say that you noticed was that there were different ego states happening very quickly for Leslie. That she was in her adult, and then she was in her child, and then maybe a parent for a moment. And yes, what I noticed about Aeon, you noticing Leslie, was that, okay, I'm reading this question. What did they miss? What did they focus on? Was this noticing? I Yeah, I noticed that somehow you had like you had some sort, it seemed like there was some sort of a linear plan for how you were going to talk about what you noticed about Leslie, like first focusing on like the physical, how it looked, like the room, and then but not noticing what that meant about. I don't know if like I have a question about like, is noticing just like noticing without kind of digging more into it, or like getting more information about like, for example, I notice that Leslie, you're like, you have this wall behind you, and I'm noticing it's like that you're hiding something that's behind it. Like, what is behind that? And then what does that mean about what's going on? So I noticed that while you were in the space, and that's something that Aeon didn't mention, like about the thing, the blue thing. He just you used the color. You said it's blue. There's a blue thing. Actually, I don't think it's blue either. Anyways, I noticed that Aeon.
How did he notice? How did he notice? What did he use? What did you notice about his noticing?
Yeah, this is like hurting my brain. uh, I noticed that you were noticing with I understand what what it
Yeah,
is.
you don't need to say this, but yeah, like I notice.
Oh,
and just-
okay,
yeah.
okay. Thank you. I noticed you were using your coach hat to notice, and I'm curious if you put on a different hat, if you noticed something else. Like that, I noticed that you were concerned about what was going on with her. When you were noticing, you were like really concerned about her story and what was going on for her. And so you were wearing this like maybe rescuer. There was like a little rescuer in there, that you were also feeling what she was feeling. And I know that that's also part of it, but I noticed that you were feeling what she was feeling. And I noticed that yeah, I again noticed that your note I'm done.
But like use your time until like, because probably you have
Okay, yeah.
20 seconds more.
Yeah. I noticed that the same I noticed that you like furrow your brow, which is the same thing I noticed when you were sharing. I noticed that when you're doing that, it seems like you're thinking about what's going on, or like there's this energy here, and I noticed that when you were noticing that you were in that same mode. which I have a story is like in your mental body, or like, yeah, like somehow I get this serious energy. I notice that you're coming at this from a serious angle, like this is a serious matter, what Leslie's saying. And yeah, that's just a notice. I don't know story about any of that. Okay, that's it.
So what about your noticing? How is it?
I noticed that a lot of my noticing has, or I have a judgment or a story or like an opinion, or like I have a whole, I could say so much more besides the noticing. And I sometimes like accidentally said it, or then it was like also feedback, but I was like, oh, that I'm really quick to like notice with my story attached, even if I don't say it, it's like there. Yeah.
So what are you noticing, Charlotte, then? What part, like what the Devin said, it's kind of this mechanism, or this, can also call it technology. What are you using, or what did you use in this time frame now?
It felt like a little bit of my survival strategy. Like it felt a little bit gremlin. Like I was using my gremlin to make the stories and the judgments. Like, yeah, I felt like I was getting charged up about it. Like as it was going on, I was getting more and more like this feedback and this feedback and this thing, and like that I somehow am using my gremlin as the noticer.
Yeah, so what I notice is that you're using your gremlin and the story, what is like the filter, what is not okay. What is not okay. And that, like Devin said, it's totally okay to use this when you're aware of it, so that you dive into the underworld and scan that. But he said, oh, but it would be not really helpful if you are in this phase of empowerment and want to discover something from the upper world with a client. It's not working when you dig down.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else what you noticed worthwhile there? Because you did not say anything, right? You were listening, so now use the space for supporting each other as a group, as a team.
So when you say that it is the gremlin that is scanning, is that when we sort of have judgments about what we notice, or how do you sort of identify that? Well, now it's the gremlin noticing.
Me?
Yeah,
No, it's just Christine. Christine said Charlotte's gremlin was noticing, and I'm just wondering,
yeah, this
what
is
makes
she
you
said.
make this discernment?
Because she said it. She said it looks like I was using my gremlin. So, and it's more the filter about what is not okay, scanning with the underworld, what is not matching, what is where he wants to have control, or she, where is it manipulative, is it kind of this what is wrong, right filter, is it good, is it bad? So and it has a consequence. It has a consequence only filtering with this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, thank you.
And checking. Okay, wow. What about putting another filter in? Changing the tape. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, none of us spoke to the bright principles of the person that we noticed.
Yeah, for example.
Instance.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back into the space of noticing, meta noticing. How was that experience for you? What kind of gems or gold did you get as a noticer and as someone noticing from this space?
The last thing that we were talking about with Christine and the group was the scanning for underworld is one thing, or scanning for, what's wrong. And then there's also scanning for bright principles, which seems could be very valuable. Or anyway, I know we're not, we're just noticing, but none of us did remark on any particular bright principles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
I noticed how doing so many constellations, and it was almost as if as each constellation went, there were that my noticing took on new dimensions. And a big part of it I noticed was that noticing what wasn't noticed like expanded out like way more than I would have expected. Not that I thought to expect or not expect. There was so much to notice that a person didn't notice. And in noticing all that, it brought this like depth and breadth to the field. And I could see how this is essential for not going nonlinear, for going nonlinear.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's kind of unbelievable. I mean, even just in these spaces, I was like, wow, the dimensionality that's possible is, and also each of these things, like changing your noticing a little bit or changing what you notice a little bit is a whole pasture. It's like a whole field that you could spend time with for, I don't know, for a month. Like you could spend time just noticing a client's bright principles for 1 month, and you would probably just scratch the surface of what's available in that kind of positioning.
I've used the term a lot before in the past, hold a neutral space. And now I don't think there is such a thing.
I think so too.
Yeah, and also just the quality of a noticing is deeply impactful and important. I think about those quantum physics experiments about the wave and the particle. I don't know who knows what I'm talking about, but depending on whether or not there's a noticer, particles can behave as a wave or as particles, or matter can behave as a wave or as particles, and the noticer changes that, whether the thing is behaving as a wave or as particles. And I found myself just at the very end there wondering if I was noticing more as a wave or noticing more as a particle. And what was my state? Was I in more of a wave state of noticing or more in a particle state of noticing?
Can you say what the difference is between those two ways of noticing? Notice like a wave or particle?
Not if I'm in a wave state. I mean, that's the difference in a way. It's like something about being in a wave state that doesn't condense. It doesn't condense into single form or solid static form. It just it pulsates or flows.
I stay with the question, what is the difference between noticing a story and making a story and the purpose of what the person is saying. And yeah, because when I was noticing, I noticed how much stories I have attached with my noticing, and how the stories is shaping my noticing. And the person, and it's like, I don't believe also that there is this neutral position where I don't have at all stories about the person. And it was interesting realizing how much, when the meta noticer bring how much things that I didn't notice, how I expand the universe of what I could do in and what I could navigate with in a person. And for example, when Nicole said that I didn't notice her teeth or her eyes or her hair, it's something that for me it's already knowing, and so I didn't notice that. So the things that I was already knowing, I didn't notice. I noticed the things that comes more than was what I was expecting. There's the expectation of already was there, and what comes more than I expected is what I noticed in her. And I'm surprised at the end with this exercise. I'm digesting, and I'm with some questions about these distinctions, because I notice how much I have stories that become expectations or statements about the person that close the perspectives, what is the things that I notice in the person.
Really interesting what you say about knowing, and it's similar, but that knowing ends the it makes it so it makes it so I don't look at the thing anymore, because it's complete in some way. I don't have to figure it out anymore. It's already known.
Something else I got from this was how noticing is different from articulating what you notice. Like I noticed that I couldn't be sure that the people I was saying hadn't noticed something actually hadn't noticed something, but I was saying that they hadn't said anything about if they'd noticed it. And I think this is really relevant to possibility coaching, because I think of how many things I notice and I don't say anything about.
Exactly. Yes. I've not interrupt you, Nicole, if you...
I'm done.
Okay. Because it was what I was sitting with now, that I feel that I noticed all what I was told that I didn't notice. I noticed all that, but I didn't see it. I didn't have the time to remember all the things. So I really think that there was not a single thing that I didn't notice. I just have, it's like I missed the memory of remembering it. But hopefully the noticing is there, like in making this soup, like that I can draw on what I noticed, but it's not so conscious that I can remember it and say it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about like how is it to how to change the channel inside of me so that the field gets wider. I think Jesse, you said something like you scanned with what holds you back from your brilliancy, right? This was your filter, and that made already a frame, but it was a wide enough frame so that something also can put on your screen. And I have also the question is like, because there is this mode where I'm only like I'm in this neutral position, and then all the informations are coming, but there's no sorting, right? It's super nonlinear, but still, like what needs to happen so I'm catching it? Like why, like what Venera, what you said, why did you say this? Why did you mention that and that not? Why did you let this slip and this not? It's like, where does it land inside of me or inside of you that you sort out? Or like scanning, like noticing in the way of like, yeah, focusing on what are the bright principles of this person makes a totally different space. Or noticing with a filter of what the person might not see yet, but what is emerging. And so that you actually talk to this person or this part of the being who is emerging and is calling, you can call it forth afterwards. So yeah, I'm sitting with the question, like how to, if to translate this also in possibility coaching, are there specific lenses we can you can use so that different phases also in the coaching is covered somehow, or that at the beginning when a newbie is coming, maybe it needs a different lens, and then on the go it needs different lenses. And yeah, I would like to research about this to get these filters, and not only personal, but also maybe there is also a helpful kind of pattern for us, even it is then not nonlinear, but it makes a field so that whatever comes up, I think, yeah, this is what I thought.
What would you normally be filtering with say someone who's new? Like, what does your filter usually look like? What are you usually scanning for with someone who's brand new?
A lot of behaviors, assumptions, stories. I filter what they are thinking about them. Like what is the X on their, like I filter to notice how they perceive themselves internally, like how is their self-observation, how they speak about themselves, how they speak about others, but mainly what stories do they have about themselves, assumptions, prejudice. This is the first what I start, and that gives me a lot of hints where to go. Yeah.
So
I think there is something very important about what Jesse mentioned about this sort of quantum wave thing, is that I do not think noticing is a passive activity. I think that we are actually co-creating when we notice with our noticing, and by noticing certain things, we are actually interacting with the system that we are observing, and so both Christine and Jesse are sort of touching upon that. And I think there is a very scientific quantum documentation or reason for believing that is actually, it's an active act to see. And I've also noticed in some people that there's a fear of being seen, in particular a fear of being seen in a special way. And I think the reason is that when we see people in a certain way, we actually put them into that box in a certain extent, and so they become what we see. And there's like a deep mystery related to this. And so obviously also, if we're able to see emerging things or bright principles in people, in particular also voice it, we will help that come into reality. Not just by noticing that it is there, but actually being part in making it become.
Through the noticing, you mean?
Through our awareness. Our awareness is a immensely powerful tool of I don't know what the right word is, making things come into reality.
Yes, I feel very much.
Christine, when you spoke, I had a question
Yeah.
because you said you started to notice from this place of how the person perceives themselves, that this is the lens. And my next question is, well, to what end? Like, what's the lens through that lens is fitted onto?
Mm.
So why would that be? Why would you notice that about somebody? What is the big thing? And to me, this touches on what you said, Anne. Okay, so depending on what that is, I think that ends up perhaps being my greater impact that I make by noticing, or the way in which my noticing manifests. What is the bright principle? Maybe is the question.
Mm.
That behind noticing the way someone sees themselves.
It's not. It's definitely not a bright principle, I
No,
would say.
no.
It's, but
And my question is not that. My question
yeah,
is, what is the
what
bright
is
principle that sits above all that
yeah.
for you, for anyone? Like, I don't have in my bright principles that I've claimed or stated, declared, is I don't have empowerment. But I noticed today that was probably the best way of describing the bright principle that I was acting from.
Yeah, what I see is like kind of for me, the first step that the person realize where's the X on the map is the first part of transformation. So I would, yeah, this is probably the bright principles working through me when I'm doing this. It's only it's the first step. It's not the the outcome, but and where to stick on. But yeah, the starting point. This is what just comes.
Which lands in me as something like clarity. It's just simple clarity. Perhaps.
I see just this moment that when the person is noticing something about me, for example, I see the bridge that this person, this noticer is building a bridge. So I have this new landscapes to see and to walk. I felt this when I received this noticing.
A sentence that came to me was the purpose direct the noticing. So the purpose is shifting and shaping the focus of what I'm noticing. And I noticed that I wasn't in any moment noticing the purpose in the person. When I was noticing, I was not noticing, and Nicole noticed that I was not noticing using my purpose sniffer, like I was not noticing for that. And yeah, it's coming when I have clarity about what I'm noticing and why I'm noticing why I'm noticing what I'm noticing now. There is this grounding space to navigate in non-linearity.
I want to shift into something that we do before whatever, one last thing that's connected to noticing in a way that's a little bit different. And this would be, we actually are going to do some kind of coaching together. But it's about impulses. And so there's the box, like your box, my box. I already talked about this, but the kind of the box, that the part of the box that wants to have a plan will already have some sort of impulse about what to do in a particular situation. And there will be some situations where the box has no idea. But when the box does have an idea, this would be called knowing. I know what to do in this particular situation. And usually this type of knowing comes from having been in this situation in the past, or seeing someone else, in particular with coaching, seeing someone else do something in the past, and then knowing, okay, this is happening in the client, so I'm going to try this, or I'm going to say this thing to the client. And like I said, we have a lot of these processes that really work. So they've been documented, they've been lit. So unmixing emotions, know how to do that. It really works. And what I would like to invite in this next space is first noticing your first layers of impulse. So at any given moment, you probably have something between 1 and 3 obvious impulses right on the surface of what you could do. And it might take you stopping and kind of looking and be like, okay, my first impulse is to give a completion loop. My second impulse is to ask the client to slow down and talk about this thing. My third impulse is to say, what are you feeling? Mad, sad, glad, scared, whatever these automatic things are. So to start to, the first part would be starting to notice what those first layers are, and then hanging out a little longer, because there's also a fourth impulse and a fifth one and a sixth one and a seventh one. And really, I think probably an infinite number of impulses that would be happening. And the idea here would be to expand your menu of which impulses you are choosing from, so that you see more of whatever the impulses are, and you can go in more directions than you previously maybe thought you had available. And something I was thinking about before coming onto this call is that, with particularly because we all have gremlins, we have access to endless supply of nonlinearity. Not all of that nonlinearity is transformational. Not all of that nonlinearity would be serving any sort of bright principle. Like, you could just start screaming obscenities at a client. You could punch a hole through your computer. You could make a call. You could pee your pants. Like, there are all these possibilities that you have access to at all times, are completely nonlinear. If a client says, I feel sad because I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, and you pee your pants, it's totally nonlinear move and not at all useful, or probably not useful. So it's like there's some place where nonlinearity and bright principles overlap. And this is what I'm curious also about researching, is how to actually find these pockets of nonlinearity that are really serving the space or the client without limiting, without that being a limit on exploration. And one of the ways to start to approach this is to find what your edge is in terms of using an impulse. So your edge would not be something you already know how to do. So this would be like the top layers of your impulse you kind of can already throw out. But it would be checking in with your other resources inside you, other spots inside you that have impulses. Like, what you're really going, not just theoretically going into your fear, but really going deep into your fear in a moment and seeing what's there. Or really sinking deep into your own, I said this to Marina, but no matter what a client is currently saying to you, sinking deep into your own sense of brokenheartedness, and then looking at the client from there and just starting to speak. So the kind of whatever the exercise or the plan here would be to, we'll split into groups of 3 again. We have a little bit of time left. And you just start working. There will be one client, there will be one quote unquote coach, and there will be one, call them a interrupter. And so the coach, you just say to the client, you start with, what can I do for you? So just start with that and let the client speak a little bit. And then at any moment, the interrupter just says, okay, pause. And then you, as the person who's coaching, you say, what are your top 3 impulses? From what you've heard so far, what are your top 3 impulses? And then you put those to the side, and then you start looking at your 4th, 5th, and 6th impulse. And this might take a little bit of time to actually find these, because you might not have been used to looking at your 4th, 5th, or 6th impulse. But the move then would be to actually try this thing out. So we don't have a ton of time to do this, but I want to try to get a little bit of space in, and it's certainly, I think you guys probably have 3 cells, so it's something you could keep exploring there. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I'm not super clear. So the first
Okay.
thing that happens is the question, what can I do for you? And then the client starts talking, and then someone interrupts and then asks who, what are your impulses?
Yeah, so there's a 3rd person in the space. So there's a client, there's the coach, and then we'll call them the interrupter. And they would ask the coach, okay, at this moment, what are your impulses? What are your top 3 impulses? Give the coach some time to pull those out and say them. And then, okay, what's your 4th, 5th, and 6th impulse? And then the coach says those and then just uses one of those. So tries one of those out, the client.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
So it's just very much to be experimenting, not that the 4th or the 5th or 6th are more useful or than the 3 first. It's just to experiment. Is that the reason why we do it?
No,
Not to find the best tool to the best impulse, or
so the purpose, yeah, the purpose is to practice nonlinearity. So nonlinearity would be moving away from what your quote unquote natural or first collection of impulses is, and to find the stuff that's hidden. So you would already have these hidden inside you. So the purpose is to get the skill of looking beyond the obvious, looking beyond what has become obvious to you in coaching. Obviously, this is how I speak to this person now. Obviously, this is what I say now. Okay. Anything else? So we'll get about 10 minutes per, probably a little less, 10-ish minutes per constellation. I'll say 9, and then we'll have some time to come back. Let me just recreate these rooms quickly. Okay. And see you soon.
I go in room 1.
You're going in room 1? Okay.
So I did
Thing else would have been like weird because somehow this was such a sensitive topic for me, and I could tell you were tapped into that and you weren't willing to like shake it up, you know, to like somehow I appreciated that it I don't know. I also was trying to think, how could this be more nonlinear? Like how could she do this differently? And I couldn't think of anything else except for what you did. And yeah, anyways, I just wanted to add that. Okay.
For your feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So
Nicole is the client and I'm the coach. Hello, Nicole. What can I do for you?
I'm noticing I have this block, I'm avoiding this task that's on my workbench of looking for flights back to Canada after the Possibility Coaching Bridge House is over. And I feel so scared about something about that I suck at buying tickets, and this fear about that somehow, because my Canadian computer is now hooking up to Czech Wi-Fi, that I don't get the information that is, yeah, there's this weird resistance,
okay.
like avoidance thing.
Okay, interrupter here.
Sorry, I need to be more clear about what was the real problem now. For me, it was not yet so clear what you needed help for. Can you repeat or tell me in another way what was the
How about go off of that? So your first impulse is to keep listening.
Yeah. Yes.
What's another impulse?
It's keep listening as the first, and the second was to, as I did now, to you for putting other words to make it more clear for me how I can help you, what is the real problem. And third impulse, what could that be? Just to be open that I would get the point. But that would also come from listening more. Then to find out a new possibility would be just to ask what is your main feeling about it, maybe. Or ask what is your, where do you feel the block? Where do you feel the blood? How does it look? Where is it? Do you feel it in your body? And another impulse could be what? I feel like there's kind of void now. I don't know if it's nothing is coming right now for me. So yeah, waiting and pausing a little bit. I don't know. It doesn't seem so obvious anymore for me what to do.
So which one of those impulses do you want to try?
I would like to just try for you to go directly into describing your block about what you are talking about.
Yeah, it's yeah, when I go to my computer and click like search, it's just this sense of like this part of it is like my Canadian box it has its way of booking tickets from Canada, but when I'm on this side of it, it's somehow it's like I have this expectation that it's going to be hard, or that it's going to be there's going to be like more of a maze to get through before I find the ticket that that there are going to be lots of like there's going to be lots of expensive prices, but if I just find my way, there will be the one that the ticket that's going to work for me.
Venera,
Where would you?
Nicole, I
Yeah.
would put Venera. You had I think you had a different idea. Like the impulse was a different one regarding the blog. Why would you let her talk so long? If your impulse was such a different one.
Hmm. Yeah,
Do you remember your impulse, what you had?
yes, to ask for how does it feel in the body, the block, yeah. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I wanted to interrupt now, but I was just I was wondering if you didn't understand what I was asking, or you were getting to the point. So I was waiting a little bit. But I will ask you, where do you feel it in your body? Do you feel it in the brain, or where do you feel this block?
Yeah, it's right here.
At the collarbones, or where do you?
We cannot see it. Okay.
Yeah. And how does it feel? You're yawning now. How?
Yeah. Yeah, it's this tightness on uh
So what's happening now?
yeah.
Yeah. What's happening when you're talking about the feeling the block? Something in your jaw and your.
Yeah, I'm almost it almost it's like it's almost as if my gremlin has uh like is stuck to me here. It just was like I don't want to fucking do this. Like I don't want to deal with this stupid system of buying plane tickets and getting like swindled or trapped into paying a lot of money more than is like being trapped into an expensive ticket that doesn't really work.
And you feel it sitting there or grabbing onto you physically.
Yeah, it's like my gremlin's like in me right here.
Yeah. I cannot hear Christine.
You're mute.
You are muted.
Wrap it up. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you just notice you have your grimming sitting there. So this is a process that the next process to find out how to deal with the gremlin sitting on you.
You are muted, Devin.
I just noticed that. Thank you. Okay, we have whatever, three minutes left. It's not a lot of time. Anything in these last 3 minutes from this experience, anything that you can put into the space that would add some sparkle? Yes, Aeon.
Yes, I felt this was really interesting. I was very enlivened by these many different options and the suggestion. In particular, also at the end, Devin came in. We had explored a lot of different things, and in the end, he suggested, "How about as coach saying I'm blocked?" And I thought that was really interesting and had very interesting dynamic in just sort of owning this nothingness of I don't know what to do. I really like that, and interesting things grew from that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like more what I had to Aaron said, like I see this performing as a coach, and actually it's the information comes there, like there's like all this information and just like a ping pong of many balls, like, and then but there's no performance, just like having the information's coming and also be vulnerable. Not because when I'm performing, I will block also the situation. So just be vulnerable.
I discovered how to hold space from not my box, and was so crazy. Like my box never will ask what I ask it, and it's like, whoa, there is possibilities that I'm not seeing because this box of needs to be in this way. I'm glad to discover that.
Wow. I just heard you say I discovered how to hold space not from my box, which is such a significant thing. It's a big claim for somebody to make. That's
I discovered that I have to go to 8 or 9 before I run out of linear impulse.
I mean, it was wild. The ones that Jesse started to come up with it, I think like starting at number 5, because it was like you were still going at number 5. But then when you got to 6, 7, 8, and 9, there was some really interesting stuff that was so valuable. That was my experience. It's like, the value was evident, and it was further down. It was like further down the chamber.
I would like to hear some of those possibilities.
Yeah, let's practice this.
I give the space holding back to Christine. it's we're at time.
Yeah, thank you, Devin, for this ride, and I'm looking forward to, like, thank you for this inspiration. And next week we're gonna practice a lot and practice in your 3 cell and just take it and practice and wait for the 10th impulse or the 20th or something. See what comes then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. I'd love to hear whatever you guys discover, especially like cool new directions or avenues or processes or whatever. But
do you have like a cool name for this therapy, like 9th impulse therapy or something?
Maybe that could be the name.
Yeah, and we're not doing therapy, Ian.
Or whatever, coaching.
Or whatever. Oh my God.
And I want to propose to put this recording, I don't know if it's possible, in the noticing website, because there is so much valuable and discoveries here in this space. Yeah, this is a possibility. And I want to
Cool.
ask if actually you do over. I want to make a proposal to put this recording in the website, noticing, and I want to ask for a resistance 0 to 10. So 1, 2, 3.
I have no idea what this website is about. So
I have
It's about
to-
noticing.
It's a website about noticing the spaceport.
And who is it for everybody, or is it only for those in the possibility training?
It's for everyone. It's transformative. It's for everyone, Bianera.
8 billion people.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! I will have to think
And
about that.
they can really learn a lot about that.
okay, never mind. Let's go.
Yeah, and
Okay.
you went first. We went first. Cool. Thank
So
you.
while you do that,
Yeah, Gabriella, it will be uploaded in our chat, and then you can do whatever. You have the permission.
Okay,
Cool.
you
Bye.
got here.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Yeah.
See you next
Bye,
week.
everyone. Thank you, Devin.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Christine.
Devin.